This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is the Fast Break Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, as always, is Ricky Widmer.
What's up, guys?
And Dave Oster.
Hey, everybody.
And the band is back together after, three podcasts or three segments at least, or three recording sessions.
Yeah.
We finally have all of us back together, and we're super excited for this podcast for you. And we got 4 topics to make it a little bit special. We're going to start off with Jabari Parker, Woj tweeting that their interest is strong, that there might be a deal by Sunday, so we'll talk about the fit. We're going to be talking about the Toronto Raptors, who are now the favorites for Kawhi Leonard, at least I think so. Oddshark had them as the favorites, so we'll talk about Kawhi to the Raptors. Then we're going to do Summer League Roundup again, talk about these Knicks, Kevin Knox, Mitchell Robinson, how bright their future is, and we're going to end it with some 2019 NBA draft talk with our way too early mock draft top 10 for next year. Should be super fun. We're super excited that you clicked on this video or you clicked on this podcast. If you did click on this, we would like to ask some things for you first. If you were listening on iTunes, please give us a 5-star rating. We'd greatly appreciate your help and support. If you want to support us in a financial, monetarily way, please check out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. We have some fun perks over there. You can also check out Most Valuable Podcast so you don't miss out any of the stuff we post. And since you're on Most Valuable Podcast, you could check out our shop where we do have Dave's lovely t-shirt right there that he is modeling, and I'm pretty sure he's the model.
I am
our store
double up on the modeling duties.
So Dave, with that beautiful face and the gray hair,
earning that money.
We have him as our
I'll
model.
be honest, I totally forgot on Too Old the Game that you said that you were going to wear that
I told
today.
you I was.
Well, Dave's a man of his word.
forgot.
So
Thank
congratulations, Dave. We're glad to have you back, and we're glad to have Ricky back, who is
I had the
recovering.
dysentery.
Yeah, we Oregon Trailed yesterday.
I had the dysentery, not just dysentery,
Yeah,
the
the
dysentery.
Glad you're back, and glad I don't have that. So let's jump into Jabari Parker and the Chicago Bulls. Our buddy Woj, our best friend of the pod, Adrian Wojnarowski, tweeted out that the restricted free agent, Jabari Parker, and the Chicago Bulls are progressing on a deal, league sources tell ESPN. Discussions over a number of topics still ongoing. And then in his article, he posted that a deal should be done by Sunday. So is the prodigal son going to be returning? We'll at least start about that, and then we'll talk about the fit if he does sign. Ricky, will Jabari Parker be a Bull next year?
I'm going to say he will be a Bull only because it's the most Bullsy thing that we can do. Hey, there's an injured guy out there. Hey, Zach LaVine, you haven't really proved anything. We'll match that offer sheet from the Kings. This is just another move that the Bulls are making this offseason to where I'm sitting there going, I don't hate it, but I don't love this move because my goal for next season is the same it was last year. Bring in the tank, let's get a top 5 pick, and let's just get another pick that we love.
And let's just get your thoughts out there right now. What were your thoughts on the Wendell Carter? Because you weren't here. What were your thoughts on the Wendell Carter?
I liked Wendell Carter. However, I would have taken Mikal Bridges.
Okay.
That's just who I was. I would have taken the 3. I liked what he brought to the table more defensively, but I can't hate on oatmeal, as Dave likes to call him.
Again, what you're saying, though, in that same vein of a move that you're not really sure of.
The thumbs up approval.
A move that you're not really sure of, at least with Wendell Carter, then Zach LaVine, and now Jabari.
Wendell Carter, I get the Wendell Carter to a degree because it's like this year we should be moving Rolo. If we Paul Gasol it and basically keep him the entire year, I'm both hands on my head. What are we doing this season? I knew we were going to get Hutchinson only because we promised him the pick. Then the Zach LaVine thing happened, and I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? Why are we matching this? Just let him go to the Kings. However, I do understand Garpak's feeling like we can't let LaVine go because then we lose the Jimmy Butler trade. And then there's this where it's like, is he going to play the 4? Is he going to back up Markkanen? Or do we think he's going to play the 3? Because I would put my money that he plays the 4 and just let him be the backup to Markkanen. But then why would you bring in Jabari Parker to do that?
Well, Dave, and I think, are you also on the train that he will be a Bull?
Yeah. I'm going in with the assumption that he is a Bull.
Well, let's just skip the whole part of going around the table and seeing if he's a Bull, because let's just jump into what you're saying on where Jabari will play. Specifically, mostly he played the 4 in Milwaukee, had sometimes at the 3. But when I heard of this signing, Dave, I thought the lineup would be Chris Dunn at the 1.
Real KD.
The real KD. Zach LaVine, the $78 million man, at the 2. Then at the 3, have Jabari Parker, and we'll get to why. Then at the 4, obviously, Markkanen. And then at the 5, either Rollo or Wendell Carter Jr. And then next year, it will be for sure Wendell Carter Jr. We'll talk about whether Rollo and Wendell Carter should be who should be in the starting lineup to start the year a little bit later. But the reason why you have that is because all 4 other players besides Jabari Parker can shoot efficiently from 3. I mean, even though Zach LaVine might not be worth the contract, he's a guy that shot 39% from 3 in his career before and is still a very young player. We know what Markkanen can do from the outside. We know what Wendell Carter can do in college from the outside, and so far he's been great from the outside in Summer League. And Chris Dunn's still an emerging shooter, around 32%, and he's still getting better. So Jabari, even though he's not a guy that is a typical stretch 4, I think he can be a slashing wing. So am I too crazy thinking that could be the starting lineup for the Chicago Bulls?
You're absolutely not. The thing that everybody wants to knock on is the fact that he did have some playing time at the 3. It was impressively negative, seen across the board, but at the same time, you have to look at like the lineup and the amount of time he actually played there and the guys he's playing with. So like out of context, it looks like it's going to fail horribly. In context, I think like the season where he actually had the most time he was just barely negative. And that's okay. Like, let's be honest, Hoy Ball is not about defensive pressure. So I'm not really worried with not having a lockdown guy 3. Yes, LaVine plus him is a concern on the wing, but when teams switch, like, we have our 1 and 5 covered between Wendell Carter and Chris Dunn, both being really good defenders. That switch is good. The middle, we'll play around. We'll find what works. But I think if we get someone like Jabari who can lose a little bit of weight, he's 6'8", 250, 260 right now, they're saying. So like, if he loses a little bit of weight, finally is healthy enough to, get in shape again. Like, I don't think it would be a stretch to have him play the 3.
Well, and I think some people are going to, jump on me for the comments for not saying he's a great shooter. Again, he has fairly decent numbers, shooting 38%. Exactly, only 2.6 threes last year. And then the year before, he was 36% from 3, only took 3.5 per game. But that was his best year. 51 games played, 50 games started, 33 minutes per game, 49 from the field, 36 from 3, 74 from the line, and averaging 20 a game. Ricky, though, you brought up the injury concerns, and we saw, obviously, throughout his career, rookie year, he struggled with health. Obviously, 2016, 2017, had a shortened season. And last year, coming off another ACL injury, what is your biggest concern? Because if it's a nice contract number, because again, there's no numbers on what his contract will be. If it's a nice number, will that ease your minds? What do you think about the player, and what do you think about the injuries?
I mean, the whole thing with the numbers, like, I'm not worried about it too much. Like, the only thing that worries me is that Garpax throws too much money at him. But really, it's we gotta spend money on something.
Is too much money? Because right now the practical cap space according to SpotRack is $17.4 million.
I mean, I'm like, in my mind, I know he's not gonna get this, or I pray he doesn't get this. But if it's anywhere near what Zach LaVine got, or in that ballpark, then I'm like, what the hell are we doing? Why are we giving a guy $20 million coming off of 2 knee injuries? I'm looking at this though, where I mean, he could play the 3, but I think ultimately what happens, I'm pushing Rollo out because I think he gets traded by the trade deadline, and it becomes Jabari's a guy we use at the 4. Hutchinson's a guy that we developed to be our main 3. That's why we drafted him, to be the 3, have Zach at the 2, Chris Dunn at the 1, and then with the center, Wendell Carter becomes our guy, and then for a backup, it's, sometimes we put Bobby Portis there, or sometimes we put Laurie there. Like, this year, that backup behind Wendell Carter after we move Rollo is basically who we're going to put in there when Wendell needs rest.
It's a whole nother conversation as far as what do you do with Bobby Portis after this, because Bobby Portis, high energy, really good bench score for the Bulls, really brought up the tempo in that second unit. And honestly, it was his best year yet, and he seems to be just getting better. So coming into his contract year next year, what do you do as the Bulls if you're making this offer to Jabari now?
Well, this is his contract year.
Yeah, that's what I should say. This is
2.4 this year, and then he's restricted free agent next year.
Right. So yeah, he will be due for some money next year is where I'm going with this. So if you're bringing in Jabari and you're saying he's not going to play the 3, then you now have Bobby Portis being third in line at the 4 and at the 5. Like, where's the value there for someone who achieved so much for you last year? Or do you just view him as a sweetener in a trade, or him plus Rollo can do something? Like, is that all his value is this year? Because I feel like he accomplished a lot last year, and to relegate him to very low minutes and low usage is kind of like a slap in the face.
Well, and I think one thing that you might see then is either him, Bob Portis, and Rolo together to give them that kind of, at least, Rolo can work on the inside, and Bobby Portis, again, being that high energy, having a fairly decent shot for his size as well from the outside, being that two pair that worked even together last year, and then having Markkanen, the offensive monster, and then having Wendell Carter, a guy who has really shown nice defensively and offensively. But at least, that was the pair all along and the pair for the future together. So maybe you at least have those two units working. But the question would be then...
leaves us the golden boy here now.
Will be Rolo. Well, I was going to bring up Rolo real quick just because who would you have in the starting lineup? Because you're talking about Rolo possibly being moved. He's got $14.3 million on his contract right now. Would you have him in the starting lineup to try to get him the most showcasing, even though you just drafted Wendell Carter with the 7th pick and he looks ready? Would you have, Rolo in the starting lineup, or would you go with Wendell Carter Jr., your recent draft pick?
I would go with Rolo as a starter, and I'm using air quotes.
You could always give Wendell Carter more minutes.
It's based off of the minutes, but I mean, Rolo from the start, I would be the starter, but Rolo's got to know in his mind that eventually either he is getting traded this year or, like I said, I'm never going to keep out the Paul Gasol possibility of he doesn't get traded because it is the Bulls, that eventually Wendell Carter passes him and becomes the starter for this team because we just drafted him.
Well, and it looks like, too, next year, even if Robin Lopez does not get moved, that's 14.3 off the books, and then a Sheik has an early termination next year. So assuming that would be, I think, that he gets $3 million guaranteed next year, so that would be about, if I'm doing the math correctly, 8 and then 14. So that would be what? I hate doing math. The 26 mil freed up with those two players leaving. Looking at the future for the Bulls, if they do bring in Jabari Parker, it's really a question about health, and I'm concerned about that. And I'm also concerned on how he fits into the NBA because, again, he's shown a pretty decent shot on low volume, but if he's not going to be healthy and if he's not going to be that quick out there because of the 2 ACL injuries and being so young, you're going to have to really pray that for the next 4 years that he's going to need a clean bill of health, that he's going to still need to be able to show that explosiveness that he showed coming out of Duke and out of good old Simeon. You need to see that. Yeah. You need to see that explosiveness, and there's that hometown connection too. So people are going to love him and expect high things.
The thing that I think that I just popped into my head is like when I was listening to, I think it was Jim Jackson on The Herd this week, and they were talking about his role on teams in the NBA because they were comparing it to Melo, but I'll compare it into this way. Because he's had 2 injuries, I mean, this is a great situation, I think, for Jabari because the greatest thing about him being Milwaukee when he was drafted by him was, cool, he's not too far from his family in Chicago. It's not that far to make a drive from Milwaukee to Chicago. Hell, you go to Milwaukee and they call it the greater Chicagoland area anyways, which pisses me off, but that's another story for a different day. This is a great move for him because it's like, you know what? I'm kind of coming home. I'm going to be closer to family. I still get the option to play in the NBA, but is he going to, all right, I have 2 ACL injuries. I am not going to be the player that I was before. I am going to accept maybe it's a new role. Maybe it's a bench role. Maybe it's a kind of more of a role player role if the injuries, like coming back from it, take their toll. And that's what I look at Jabari. Could he be somebody that changes his role because, hey, I've had 2 injuries, and now this is the player I am in the NBA?
I mean, real quick, I think if he has another injury, then maybe he'll have to reassess that. But if he's getting this money from Chicago, there's no way that he's not going to think of himself as a starter on this team because we even look at him coming back last year from Milwaukee. He was getting pretty decent minutes throughout the playoffs last year from games 3 all the way to the last game. He was getting around 24 minutes plus throughout the playoffs, and then even when he came back near the end of the season, he was getting over 25 minutes per game from like the last 8 games. So he was still being trusted as a starter or at least getting starter minutes for that Bucks team last year. I don't think that's going to change, especially with how young he is and where he was drafted.
I'm not saying like decreased in minutes. I'm saying like, you know what, he may not be a guy that might not be in the starting lineup. He might get those 25, but he's coming off of the bench to do so. Can he do that and not be a
But
starter?
does that make sense for the Bulls team? Because right now, if they sign him, in my mind, he's one of their 5 best players.
He walks on as a starter. Like that's the period. Like as much as you want to put Chandler Hutchison into the spotlight as a starting 3, he's
we're hoping he develops into that. He won't be that.
We can
day
hope
one.
there, but at the same time, like we saw more out of Jabari last year than we did out of Zach LaVine. So I don't know why you're like the concern there. I'm completely the opposite. I'm like, we saw him come back. He looked like he had a little bit of rust, but he came back. He was still aggressive. He was still athletic. His ability to bring the ball up the court quickly, play in a fast-paced offense was there. Like I saw more out of him to be happy about than I did out of Zach LaVine, to be honest with you. So, and he played more games than Zach did as well. So that's why I'm like, well, I trust him. I don't think he's a changed player at this point. Both injuries were sort of freak injuries anyway. So.
Also,
but I think
the one thing I will say about that is the teams were different. The Bucks were for sure going playoffs and going for it. The Bulls were probably like, hey, Zach, maybe we don't need to have you play some games.
I was thinking more of the line that, again, this is the second major injury that Jabari has had to his ACL, where Zach has not really rehabbed from that type of injury before. So I think that's the biggest concern with Jabari is the fact that he's had 2 major injuries to his ACL before, where Zach LaVine hasn't done that rehab before, had to switch teams, wasn't with the same trainers, where Jabari, again, had that
doesn't fix his shot IQ, unfortunately.
No, it doesn't.
That's what I didn't like about Zach.
But again, there's still rust involved, still new teams, still adjusting to the system.
Yeah, no, that's
I think
fine.
there's more leniency there with Zach LaVine because, again, very similar ages, and I understand where you're coming from. But again, Jabari has rehabbed.
He has another injury. He's got experience
before.
coming through it. I know. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, I'm not worried about his athleticism. I think he'll be just fine in that ballpark. I don't think either one of these guys is really going to taking a step back from where they were going into their injuries. I think at this point they're both going to be fine coming into this next year. I really believe that, like, lineup-wise, yes, he walks in day one as your 3. You hope that he slims down a little bit. You work on his endurance training, athleticism. He needs to get in-game shape for long stretches because, honestly, the offseason, like, this is going to be a healthy workout offseason for him, so which is awesome. He needs that. He needs to come back healthy. And, like, basically he had, like, a half season last year. He's going to have this full offseason. I think, like I said, I think you can walk in at, like, 245 and be able to play the 3. Yes, we're not going to play amazing defense, but, like, he fits what we need for Fred Hoiberg's system. So I'm all about, like, adding him. Huge plus.
And again, let's go to the LaVine contract because that's been brought up a little bit. 4 years, $78 million. Kings threw out that offer. Bulls end up matching pretty much within like 2 hours, I think it was. I was listening to 670, and good old Lawrence Holmes on 670 was talking about, oh, hey, the Bulls just made the Kings just made the offer, and then by the end of the show, they're already talking about the Bulls matching the offer. So it happened, bang, bang. Bulls really wanted to keep LaVine. LaVine seemed a little bit upset at first, but he seems committed to Chicago, at least for the next 4 years. He didn't have a choice because they matched it, but again, he just wanted to feel like, you know, there was
he
comments.
Wants to feel loved.
Yeah, there was comments coming out that he's saying, yeah, I'd love to play for Sacramento. Again, he wanted to feel love. He wanted to get that love. I think that this signing, at least Jabari Parker and Zach LaVine, shows that this team is committed to their youth. And again, that might be good for you, Ricky, because yes, you're signing a guy in Jabari Parker, who is a guy that's capable of putting up near 20 points per game, and you want to be a team in the top 10 for the NBA draft. You want a lower team, you want a higher pick, is the idea for your team. But in my mind, you just have Chris Dunn at the point, who's a top 5 pick, and still in his 3rd year now. You look at Zach LaVine, he's still super young. I think he's younger than Chris Dunn. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
He is.
You look at Jabari Parker, 22, younger than Chris Dunn. Lowry. Markin, I know you always correct me with that. Markin, super, extremely young, 20 years old, and Wendell Carter, just a recent draft pick. You have a young starting 5 right now. I don't think, this is a team that, again, if the success comes, great. And I don't think you should be mad about it because that means your young players are playing up, and Zach LaVine showed that he was worth the money. Jabari Parker showed that he was worth the money. Wendell Carter Jr. showed that he was worth that pick. I think it's really good if this team next year, and they do sign Jabari Parker, and Zach LaVine obviously made that, they brought Zach LaVine back. If they do have success, I think that's great for Chicago because you're seeing that these young players that you gave money to that you're going to have locked down for the next 4 years were worth the money.
I like the excitement of like, all right, these players are playing better, but let's be honest, I still want to. If we make the playoffs next year, it is just full on Garpax Bulls mode, Jerry Reinsdorf of like, cool, we're selling more tickets.
But they're always upside.
But we're really not
selling
going to go.
Tickets last year and they sucked.
We're really not going to go anywhere. I'd rather have a higher draft pick, get another young player I can be excited about for this year when it comes
what
to...
What type of player would you think needs to be added to this team? What player in the 2019 draft would be a necessary addition to this team?
I would love to be a top 5 so I can get any of the forwards or any of the threes that can be out there that we can grab.
So you just don't like Jabari Parker? I mean,
no. It's not that I don't like Jabari. It's that if I can get a guy in this draft who can be a 3 for us and be the same kind of player that I can be excited for, like Markkanen, like Wendell Carter, give me that. I'll take Jabari as well, but I'll take that over being a playoff team and getting a non-lottery guy. I know that you can get gems wherever you are, but for me, the big thing this year is let's be good on the court. Let's necessarily not win a ton of games because I want a high draft pick. And the big thing for me with Zach LaVine is, would I have matched the offer sheet? No. The only reason why I wouldn't is because I don't know what kind of a player we are going to get with him post-injury. He hasn't shown us what he is going to be. If he comes out this year, balls out, shows he's worth that money, all right, I will put my foot in my mouth and I will be like, cool, I am glad to have you, Zach. The big thing I want to see from Zach, now that he has the contract, is what he said he was going to do when he came over to the Bulls. He was going to recruit free agents. He was going to bring guys to Chicago to play with him. You roll your eyes, but that's what I want to see now that he has the money.
Fine, and I'm not disagreeing with you.
And you roll your eyes because people in Chicago, we can't recruit free agents to play for us.
I'm rolling my eyes at Zach LaVine saying that, not you saying that.
Yeah.
Because, again, buddy, you've been in the league for, 4 years, and you've been on 2 teams and really don't know that many players and don't have that much connection. I understand that he's been All-Star Weekend. He's, done the
dunk contest.
Won the dunk contest.
That is what I want to see. Bring guys, like, we're building a young core, then bring in the guys that you said you were going to play, that you were going to bring in.
Are you one of those Chicago Dreamers playing the 2020 AD reunion tour?
No, I'm not. I don't have any dream.
Anthony Davis coming back to Chicago, according to half the stuff.
I don't have any dream lineups in my head. It's just Zach LaVine, whatever free agents you think will work with.
He's going to convince Klay Thompson to come to Chicago.
Pull your strings to get guys that you want to be veterans to play for this team to hopefully win a championship.
Real quick, if he brings in Klay Thompson takes his job.
I know.
So I know. That I'm a little concerned about because with bringing in free agents, and I understand that would bring excitement to the team. People would love it. And, again, there's nothing wrong with more talent on a team. We've seen teams make it work before. But if you're spending this much on LaVine, if you're spending this much on Jabari, you're going to have to spend the money on Markkanen. You're going to have to spend the money on Wendell Carter Jr. at some point. You're going to have to spend the money on Chris Dunn, or at least let him walk at some point. There's not enough money to go around to that starting 5. And right now you nearly maxed out Zach LaVine. You're going to give probably Jabari Parker near 13 to 15 million to come play for your team. And we don't know the length of that deal as well.
Maybe 2 years.
Maybe
is what
2
we're
years.
looking at
So then
as
if
a minimum,
he performs highly, you might need to max him out. And especially if fans really like to take to him, then again you're going to have to probably bring him back. I just get concerned if you are a Bulls fan. Again, if you have a starting lineup that's working, and you have a starting lineup that's getting you to the playoffs, and this is a very young starting lineup as we see right now with Chris Dunn, LaVine, Parker, if he signs, Markkanen and Carter Jr., if that young group is working, why would you want to get rid of that and destroy what is getting you to the playoffs? And maybe that team's not a finals competitor, but what makes them a finals competitor? I don't think we will know that until the next 3 years, until Jabari Parker's contract ends up finishes and everything. Zach LaVine's contract finishes. I don't think we're going to know if this Bulls team is an NBA finals competitor until the next 3 years, because I don't think Golden State's going to give up that reign soon. I think Boston, with how young they are, is going to be the team that dominates the East for at least the next couple of years. The same with Philly as well.
The big thing with Boston, and this is just a throwaway that I'll throw in there, is they're not going to fall off from the face of the earth, but a big hit that'll hit them is if Kyrie ends up leaving them for a New York
or maybe a Chicago. Maybe Zach LaVine brings them in.
I would
There you go.
I would
Another
love
injured
that
player.
because that means we don't need Chris Dunn, even though I like Chris Dunn, but I'm not going to get my hopes up that
Zach
Kyrie
LaVine,
comes
a
to
flat
Chicago.
earther?
I think you saying that you'd rather.
God, you bring that up. I'm gonna totally off topic, but I saw a post today on Twitter.
It's the offseason.
Someone said the tweet said, I just flew back from LA to Chicago, and it took me the same amount of time that it did to go there. Hence, the Earth is flat. And I'm like, what? There's actually people that think this in the world?
Yes. I forgot what I was going to say.
I love this young core. I think
I don't think you're crazy saying that you'd rather have Kyrie over Chris Dunn.
No, yeah.
Well, yeah, no, that's not even close. But, I mean, you got to admit, as a Bulls fan, are you a little confused? Because, like,
I'm not a Bulls fan, so why are you asking me?
I'm talking Ricky. I'm looking at you, though.
Okay.
Because otherwise, it's just, they get to watch the back of my head.
Yeah.
Like, that's just
how
weird.
Mark did on Too Old the Game.
Yeah, I know. He just doesn't care on that show. But no, my point is, like, how are you not excited for this young core? Like, we got...
Oh, I'm excited
for them. We could have 5
them.
kids under the age of 24.
It seems like you're worried, Ricky.
25?
My worry comes from, so it's all about the past for me. Like, I'm excited for this team.
Like,
I love
this could be
Markkanen.
like the Nuggets
I like
of the
Wendell
East.
Carter, but like the thing I don't want to
not say
happen,
anything.
the thing I do not want to happen is what it seemed like the Bulls were going for before we pulled the trigger on Jimmy, where it's like, let's just get the 8th seed. We're in the playoffs. That's more games. We sell more tickets. And it's like, but we're not helping our future.
Who on this team
getting
is that
out
guy?
of the lottery.
Our veterans are Omir Sheik,
No,
Robin
no.
Lopez. And,
I'm just saying, like, I would rather, if you are going with me, I'd rather go with getting another high draft pick, another young player I can get excited for, rather than make the 8th seed and maybe lose to the Boston Celtics in the first round.
We literally have like 3 vets, and 2 of them are centers. And one of them is Cristiano Felicio.
Well,
so not really worried about them bringing in, the ghost of Dwayne Wade to drag us into the playoffs. Like, that's not what we're doing this year.
No, and
this year is about letting the young kids play. It's all upside. That's all this year is.
And Jabari is still a young.
Exactly.
Has that upside. Just looking at the roster right now, and then we'll end up wrapping us. We got about a minute left. Looking at the roster right now, point guards, you got Chris Dunn. Campaign still has another year.
Baby.
Julian Stone, who you acquired in that weird
Worthless,
Hornets Magic
I don't know why.
Bull swap. Zach LaVine, Justin Holiday, Denzel Valentine, Hutchison, Paul Zipser, still on the roster. Small forward. You add Jabari Parker.
He thought he
there.
was going to get traded or cut.
Yeah, he still might.
I'm not holding
because right now I'm naming all these players.
We're waiting for Nwaba to hopefully, if we do the deal.
Right now, Nwaba, if you bring him back, that will put you at 15. So then you wouldn't be able to sign Jabari. So someone has to go. Much.
That's what. Yeah.
So Hutchison, Nwaba, Zipser, Felicio, Markkanen, Portis, Robin Lopez, Sheik, and then Carter Jr. Does this team with Jabari Parker make the playoffs in the East?
I'm going no. This is going to be another top 10 Bulls pick.
And why is that?
Only because I feel like this team will see the spurts that we want from the young talent, but I'm hoping that Bulls management goes, we're going to pull the reins on this. We're going to sit this guy here. We're going to pull the reins here because we want another high draft pick kind of a player to add to this young core because we're not ready to make a run yet.
And I think one thing, too, is if you miss the playoffs, you're most likely going to be in the bottom 10 because that's just how bad the East is.
Exactly.
So I think if you miss the playoffs, you're going to be fine. If you make the playoffs, that's obviously where you get screwed. Dave, with that team that I just said, does this team make the playoffs?
Probably like a 15% chance. It's pretty high, honestly. That's pretty high for them. Like, it's a team without veteran leadership. You really see down the stretch. Like, one of the nice things is, in the month of March, April, like, you see a lot of these young kids either hit that, like, break through that rookie wall, or they just completely flounder. So, like, come year end, our team is either going to tank it and we're gonna keep going back down like we did this past year. We're like, we're pick numbers 10, 9.
Just
8,
remember,
7.
don't sign Sean Kilpatrick because he can ball out and he'll win us games.
Some garbage there with him dropping threes, but whatever. No, I think that like 15% chance, that's optimistic. I don't think they're going to do it. I think that this is a young team. Let them play. It's like Baby Bulls V2.
Yeah, and I think it's something, too. You look at Toronto, Boston, Philly, Indiana, Milwaukee, Washington. Those teams are
there
pretty
are lots
secure
of teams better than us.
in that playoff. And then Miami, even though they don't have too many stars, they are a very well-coached team.
Basketball.
They're mostly going to get in there. Cleveland, some people think they're going to make the playoffs.
The only wild card is how far does Cleveland fall?
You got Colin Sexton and you got K-Love. Maybe they can make some noise. It'll be interesting to see what Dwayne Casey does with Detroit. Charlotte, with their new coaching changes, that's going to be interesting, especially if they keep Kemba, and hell, some people might even throw the Knicks in there. So with Fizdale. So, I mean, I think there are probably about, maybe 11 teams above the Bulls right now. Maybe the Cavs are neck and neck with them. probably 11 teams, maybe even 10 teams, for sure 8 teams that are above the Bulls right now that will make the Eastern Conference playoffs. So I think it's very unlikely.
Like 7. I think we're probably in the same range. We're probably like 7th seed, 6th seed.
Unlikely that the Bulls make it into the playoffs, and if they do, it's most likely going to be due to injury. But it's going to be exciting to see what this new lineup could do, because again, I think Jabari could be very interesting if he is healthy, especially in that lineup where he would be more of a slasher, along with Chris Dunn, Zach LaVine, good old Markkanen, and Wendell Carter Jr. But let us know what you think down in the comments below. Try to time it right, but the camera just shut off. Let us know down in the comments below what you think about the Bulls, and if they do sign Jabari Parker, how he fits in with this Bulls team.